You are not your thoughts. Thoughts are creative. Thoughts are where creation begins. You're a thought. I'm a thought, or we wouldn't exist. Your consciousness is a thought that was given its own free will to think what it chooses. Many people don't use that freedom all that effectively in a world that's deceptive, but think about it. It's a choice. A thought is a choice, and no thought is neutral, and all thoughts are creative. Many of you ask me about psychedelics. Tell me something about psychedelics. Here's something, an insight. One time I was using some sacred cactus, and the plant, the sacred cactus taught me something. It's something I knew, at least in theory, or I knew it intellectually, but it made everything amplified for me so the experience could be very obvious. And that was that if I projected a dark thought, whether I knew I was projecting it or not, if I accepted a dark thought, let's say, if I entertained a negative thought, things would get so dark and so threatening and so confusing and so upsetting so quickly. However, if I switched to thinking a loving thought towards the same topic or whatever I was observing or whatever the negative thought had been about, instantly everything switched to wonderful. Wonderful. To me, the natural psychedelics of the earth, one thing they are is an amplifier of your current energy. So, in amplifying that simple truth, they took something that's kind of like a still small truth and they made it really big and loud so I could hear it and see it clearly. And I've never forgotten that. So if you can, that's a success story from gleaning something from a psychedelic experience. Again, it's something that I already knew intellectually, but experiencing it at such a strong feeling level makes it really stick. The lesson is really stuck. I haven't forgotten it. How many of you have noticed that if you're almost asleep at night, um, or maybe you're in between sleep and you woke up in the middle of the night or something, all your challenges in life, the things you're responsible for, the things you know you need to deal with, things that are unresolved, etc., they all seem so much bigger. They all seem so much more stressful, so much more overwhelming. And yet, if you get a good night's sleep and you look at the same thing the next day, oftentimes it's nothing. It's like, oh yeah, I can do this. This is easy. I don't know why I was losing sleep over it. So in a different state of brain chemistry, in a different state of awareness, you're looking at the same thing. And in one situation, it seems overwhelming. It seems like you can't rest until it's resolved. And then in the other situation, you look at it and go, yeah, that's no big deal. I shouldn't have lost any sleep over it because I can handle it easy. That was just wasted stress. These are examples of the power of thought, sure, and thought is creative. So you have your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And depending on which wolf you're feeding in any category of life, the subconscious mind or the superconscious mind is like this big collective ocean, and it's basically absorbing it all. It's absorbing your thoughts. It's also absorbing all the impressions from your environment, thought impressions, and every other kind of impression. It takes in all the data. And the thing about the sub or superconscious mind is it doesn't have any kind of discernment type framework the way your conscious mind does. Your conscious mind has been taught, probably a certain belief system or a certain concept of some kind of values or right and wrong or anything like that, or things that you consider believable and things you don't. But the subconscious mind doesn't really have any of that, and it's much bigger. And it's the one basically running your life. As far as manifestation goes, what you're manifesting, drawing to you into your experience, these truths could all be seen in the vastness of your subconscious or your superconscious mind if it was fully translatable and understandable to the conscious mind. But one thing we know, what you're putting in it is programming it. And of course, your subconscious or superconscious will have a lot of mixed programs because some of it is what you've been teaching yourself or telling yourself along the way. And then there's various other conflicting programs that you picked up in this world that don't even agree with each other. So oftentimes people wonder why it's so complicated being a human. I aim for this, but I do that. I try to do this, but I do that instead. I say I want this, but then I do the opposite. Well, these are some of the reasons why. There's this ocean, this network of information and impressions living in your subconscious programming. And every day, things are adding to it, always adding. I suggest that what a lot of us need to do is actually stop and subtract some things because we have these conflicting programs. So if you become clear on who it is you choose to be, what it is you choose to be and do, if you really get to a point of clarity on that, it's time to take some things out of the subconscious mind as you recognize things fighting you. Say you recognize a pattern. Why do I do this? Well, dig. Let's go back. Where must of this have started? You know, for example, why is it I set out to do the right thing with all the discipline and the right tools and the right efforts, but I don't, somehow I just doubt it's going to work and then it doesn't? Well, a lack of belief in your own ability. Let's say when you were young, you often got the message in the world that, oh, you're a silly child and it doesn't work that way. Or you were really excited and inspired and people just dismissed you. They didn't listen to you because you're a small child, and adults don't realize that often the greatest wisdom is in the mouths of the babes, so to speak. Babies, infants. So you picked up the impression, even if you didn't even understand words yet. This could have started earlier than that. You picked up the impression that no, you're wrong. Oh no, you're silly. Oh no, that's okay. You're a child. You don't know any better. You were dismissed, right? So this lives within your subconscious that doesn't question things, and it's huge and powerful. So now you have this huge, powerful generator that largely believes from early impressions that it doesn't even matter what you do or think or believe or try because you're just a silly, child. It's not going to work. So people carry these programs through life, and it costs them a lot not rearranging these things. You have the present moment to work on it. And a lot of people are, complaining about intrusive thoughts or a troubled mind. I've been there, to say the very least. Many, many dark dimensions of mine. My mind used to torture me pretty much 24/7, decades ago. And I found that to whatever degree you're effectively reprogramming your subconscious, superconscious, which is where your root philosophy of life resides, mixed in with all the things that may conflict with it. And the superconscious, subconscious mind being so undiscerning, but so powerful, it's not going to edit these things on its own. It's not going to look at what does good for you in life and what does harm for you and others and correct itself. It just doesn't. It just doesn't work that way. Your conscious mind, which is much smaller, gives you an area to focus. It has to be much smaller in order for you to focus. You couldn't focus swimming in your superconscious. There's too much. But in the conscious mind, you have the power to focus. Now, again, you are not your mind, but you are the ultimate authority of it. Even though intrusive thoughts will come, and the ether around us is like airwaves filled with information, and whether you know it or not, you're picking up on things from that at times, your environment and so forth. But if you discipline your own mind and you decide, you observe, instead of thinking you are your mind, oh, poor me, I'm so troubled, I have these dark thoughts. No, stop it. You're not your mind. You are your spirit. You're not your mind. What you're calling your mind right now in this human condition is a temporary condition. But as per how you wield what tools you came into this world with, or whether you discover your spiritual gifts or not and how you can use them, it is important to discipline or direct or care for the human mind. So when you notice it having a thought that you know doesn't align with what you're choosing to be or do, simply make a note that I don't believe that. No, I reject that one. I do not condone it. I do not agree with it. That's not my thought. That's not me. I don't own it. No, I disagree. See, you are entirely free to disagree with things that pass through your own mind. Well, how is that possible if I am my mind? Because you're not. You're not. So now you're taking a higher seat within yourself. You're sitting somewhere closer to your own spirit and looking at your mind going, no mind, no, we don't believe that one. Let's edit it. Let's toss that out. Because you're rejecting it consciously and you're mature enough now as a human being to make conscious decisions about what to believe, what to entertain and not, your subconscious will follow your lead, even though it's the bigger, more powerful part of the mind. Again, it's not discerning and it's just receptive to everything and it's going to follow your lead consciously. So if you reject and let go of and don't even get frustrated, because that kind of, you don't want to get frustrated by a negative thought. You don't want to fear it. Okay, that's how the deception of a negative thought works on you, and then it becomes a belief or a pattern in life. You don't want to fear it. You don't want to get frustrated because that'll just add to it and it'll repeat the cycle. It'll put it on a loop. You're giving it your energy when you do that. All that energy that comes up in the form of frustration or fear, whatever it is, you're giving energy to that programming. So don't look at that hideous thought and go, yeah, that's not me. Nope. The human mind is capable of thinking up the most terrible of things. And whether it originated in your mind or somewhere else, nobody's ever going to figure that out anyway. And it doesn't even matter. Nobody's going to figure it out from the human condition side of things. But it doesn't matter because you are not your thoughts. You choose. You choose what you say yes to in your own thoughts and what you say no to because your subconscious, superconscious is listening. Let's take life as another little object lesson here. Let's just call it life. Two people that look the same, that were born on the same day as identical twins. Say they lived in identical houses right next to each other in the identical part of the world. And yet, let's say something's going on different in their thoughts. Over time, their realities will become completely different because one of them is choosing to project light and love and the goodness of creation onto what it looks at, what he looks at, let's say. And the other one is choosing to see all the things that are wrong, thinking thoughts like, to live is to die. I didn't ask for this. We all have a death sentence. This is terrible. Life is horrible. Everybody struggles. Nobody really knows what's going on. People do awful things to each other. People give up. People suffer and die. Animals suffer. If you start looking at things a certain way, you will destroy yourself inside. You will give yourself diseases. You will literally kill yourself if you keep it up. Enough poison will damage the function of your liver, your immune system, everything. You'll get cellular mutations. You can give yourself cancer or any other number of diseases. It's incredible. And in this world, that's easy to do. You got the so-called news that all it does is show you every horrific thing you're supposed to be freaked out about on planet Earth today. Social media, taking advantage of the outrage addiction everyone has. There's just bad news everywhere and shocking, upsetting, nervous system disrupting. That's what sells. That and a bit of hopium for dessert, like silly things with no action where the rubber doesn't meet the road and people just believe silly, happy things because it's what they like to hear, but they're not being honest with themselves. So unfortunately, what's sold to your mind on a regular basis, not productive. It's quite the opposite. Being that your mind is creative and there's a creation generator in your subconscious mind, not your conscious mind where people argue about political opinions or fashion opinions or have reaction videos to each other, whatever nonsense to be distracted by that's shallow and meaningless things to waste your life on. But the subconscious in every person, the superconscious is a generator of reality. So what happens when from the time you're born, your subconscious is programmed to see the world in a certain way? And what is the way? Humans are corrupt and disastrous. It's a dog-eat-dog world. If you want to get any good things in life, you're going to, have to be willing to break some eggs to make an omelet. And really that means break other people or animals or the planet, because that's the model you've been shown. That's what's been soaked in deep. And that there's not enough to go around. So if you're going to have anything, somebody else has to go without. So you might as well just get tough and start taking it from them. These are all illusions and lies, by the way. But when a species of billions is collectively programmed to believe this down deep inside, not even in your conscious mind could be scrolling through whatever, talking about some clothing you want to buy or an app or something and thinking that's what your life's about. Meanwhile, your subconscious, superconscious is taking on these huge programs about what life is that then control your life. So people wonder, why is it so hard to do any good in this world? Well, maybe it isn't. But maybe the way that the collective's subconscious, superconscious has been programmed makes it very, very difficult for anyone at an individual level to make any serious change within themselves, right? Especially when lessons on how to do that are not just handed out in this world. But I can tell you this, you can start in the now by discipline, if you like that word, or maybe care, some TLC for your mind, whatever feels better to prefer for how to look at this, but to monitor your own thoughts. Number one rule, don't be deceived into thinking you are your own thoughts, or you'll never be able to do this. You'll never be able to help yourself with your mind. Number two, remember no thought is neutral. Now there's thoughts that are pretty small. Should I go up the hill and chop a path in the forest? Should I go over there and, plant this tree? I mean, these are minor choices. And sometimes either choice is a positive thing. But just remember, from large to small, monitor and watch your mind. Watch what your mind thinks about a thought. Let's say I decide to go over here and plant a tree. So I got a pomegranate tree and I got this spot over here I want to plant it. That in of itself is a positive thing. But say as I'm going to do so, I'm thinking about somebody I once talked about or saw eat a pomegranate. And then I'm reminded of something that same person did that was really destructive. And all of a sudden I'm arguing and I'm defending myself and I'm getting mad at some of the human flaws that cause us struggle in life, right? So now I've let, perhaps while I'm out planting a tree, I say this because it's happened plenty of times, I'm thinking a bunch of unproductive, negative, frustrated thoughts, right? And a lot of times I'll just plant the tree anyway and just grit through it and get it done. But if I slow down in a sense, and this doesn't necessarily mean even physically slowing down, but if I slow down and just observe it and catch it and reject it and say, no, I don't need this kind of stuff upsetting me. I don't need it shaping the rest of my day or tomorrow or the rest of my tomorrows. So I'm going to let these go. These are unproductive. I don't really believe those things or agree with them. Sometimes I'll ask the creator, hey, inspire me, replace this little negative loop I was getting myself back in. Inspire me with something that's for the betterment of all. And sometimes a video like this comes to me, for example. Something to share. Something productive instead of destructive. But again, don't get frustrated because, when you start doing this, when you start paying attention, maybe for the first time, you start observing your conscious mind from somewhere higher instead of thinking you are it. There's a temptation maybe to get frustrated when you see how easily it goes astray all over the place. And then you also live in a world where, in a lot of situations people are in, not me right here, right now, this is actually real conducive to deeper relaxed concentration or relaxation or anything, this environment. But a lot of environments people are in, obviously, it's very difficult to be monitoring your own thoughts when you don't even have time because people are saying, hey, you, this, do that, look out here, what about this, blah, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah. And everybody's yakking and trying to get your attention and sell you stuff and influence you and get you to be involved with whatever. So you got to balance these things. And if this matters to you, and if you realize that no matter what you tell yourself with your conscious mind, I swear tomorrow's going to be different. I'm going to get up and do this. And every day it doesn't happen, right? You're dealing with the fact that your subconscious, superconscious is much larger and it's already programmed in a way that's not working along with what your conscious mind is saying, doing, aiming for, choosing to be, choosing to do. To speed up the process, if you can figure out the root belief somewhere in your superconscious that leads to this pattern that you find yourself being frustrated by or saddened by or whatever it is. Now, you can replace it. You can replace that belief with something much better. This is where it gets into the realm of real, true spiritual growth and spirituality, though, because a lot of the philosophies I see people out there handing around trying to say made their life better, they're hideous. It's like some new form of racism or classism or sexism or somethingism. It's just another ism. It's another schism. It's ridiculism. Okay, I'm stopping now. I promise. But they're no good. It's just a different dysfunctional trip to be on. But the deep, true, simplest, childlike, core spiritual truths like love God with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. Because in the end, these are all parts of the same thing. These are leading you to the greatest spiritual truths. Why would I treat someone else in a way I don't want to be treated? Because it's actually, what I'm doing is I'm using my little limited individuality to make the same thing hurt itself. It's like I'm being a cancer cell or something, you know? I'm not cooperating with how creation actually works. I'm fighting it. And when there's a deep peace within you and you're able to sit with it and actually feel that, it just makes sense to you. You're like, wait, all the things the world taught me are kind of opposite of my actual spiritual nature. You know, I was taught that if I don't get mean and toughen up and stop being sensitive and learn to go do business and take advantage of everybody, they're just going to keep doing it to me. I have no choice, blah, blah, blah. But you do. You have all kinds of choices. And there's all kinds of other possibilities. When you're not following a few dysfunctional trends, you realize there's essentially limitless different ways life could be done. So if you can go back and find a root belief that's dysfunctional about what you think life is and what you think you are, what you think the meaning of things are, or if you think there is no meaning of things, that's very dysfunctional. And you can replace it with something that actually does bear fruit. Simple spiritual principles. I'm one with the source and the source is one with me. My, what does that mean? It's beyond profound. But when you focus on those things, even if your intellectual mind says, yeah, but give me more, explain how that works. Make a chart and a graph and some math and you can't always do that. You can't always do that. Some of the best things in life are not that explainable. And I'm sure that's for good reason. So, whatever it is, some healthy spiritual reflection, prayer, meditation, deep breath, just to detach and realize, you know what, my little ego struggles with whatever's going on in the moment. I'll take whatever actions seem to be the right actions in the situation, but I need to detach this desperation because that's obviously coming from some program inside of me. Some program that feels like no matter how well I prepare and no matter how hard I extra work, it's not going to work out for me. And if you have that program, you know what I'm talking about. Things will literally come from the four winds on the outside of you to make sure they interrupt great things that you really were possibly the best at. And now nobody's ever going to know, for example. And you're like, what is going on here? I don't see how I sabotage that because there were things in life that got in the way and made it impossible. They hit me from different angles, things that were out of my control. But what if that's not really how it works? What if those things were on a trajectory to hit you that way because of what you've been entertaining in your inner self for a long time? So it looks like those things, in and of their free will, destroyed your path, and they had their part to play. But from your own perspective, if you look inwards and realize this has already been a pattern with me, and it seems to just be getting bigger or finding other ways to show it to show itself to me in life, then you know you have a subconscious, superconscious program that's thwarting who you now see yourself doing and being. But I will tell you this, if you can hold tight to an image, a feeling, a vision, a great inspiration of the newer, higher, better, grander version of you, if you can hold tight to it, and that doesn't mean 100% of the time because everybody's going to have weak moments and this and that, but I mean, overall, if you do stick to it and hold to it, and I mean mostly inwardly, the outward actions will come, but if you can really hold to that clarity of what you're choosing to do and be, by automated process, the very things that are stopping you from more successfully, more quickly, or more obviously moving into that, actualizing, I guess is the word some would use, that will come up. These things will come up because you are holding to a certain truth. And in order for that to be possible, it's like you're moving now. You're moving somewhere in space-time. And the objects that are in your path, you're going to bump into them. Things in your subconscious, superconscious, maybe you can't see until you try to move through them and hit them. So don't make the mistake of thinking, see, I'm blocked, I'm not succeeding, I'm not successful, I'm not making any change. You actually are. You're causing the very things that need to be rewritten to come up for yourself. to come up and meet with you. And when you're done being frustrated and dramatic about it, and you can be calm with it, you can finally let go of the bitterness or the whatever it's cost you thus far. Then you can sit there and tinker with these things and recreate them and go, this root belief is ridiculous. I don't even agree with it, but I see how I picked it up in this world and it's been running my life for a long time. Now focus on, meditate on, and deeply feel the things you really do believe. If you find spiritual gold, and this has something to do with cultivating the kingdom of heaven within you, in fact, it's directly related. Any spiritual true gold nuggets you find in life that are the real deal, if you feel that healthiness in your soul occurring, focus on it. Feel into it more. You'll speed up the process of changing whatever counterproductive root beliefs this is going to help you replace. Okay? I think that's about enough for this one. But just yesterday, I was standing there looking off my back porch like I often do. And I have a lot of experience in life being at the very highest highs and the very lowest lows, both extremes. Extremely high points in Uranian energy for you astrology peeps. That's just one part of this, but the fluctuations in me have been extreme, and I know full well uh, from doing a little research and surveys and this and that. I could have, if I'd have ever gone in, if I was misguided enough to ever get a mental health label, which I know better than to do, and I've tried to talk others out of having that done to them, just so doors can be shut on you and you can be controlled and categorized better. But anyway, if I was susceptible to such influences, I could easily be credited as being bipolar, especially manic, depressive bipolar. And I've known that for a long time, and I generally stay in the manic side of it because it's super inspiring. It can be a little too much. I can be a little too much at times for people, but it's super creative and inspiring and at least somewhat useful. Whereas I find the depressive side of it to be crushing and hopeless. But I do visit it once in a while. I let my brain chemistry switch. So just yesterday, I'm looking off my back porch, and for whatever reason, I switched into dark mode for just a matter of seconds. When I say dark mode now, this used to be my default. A decade ago, actually my default was probably even worse a decade. Well, maybe not a decade, who knows? But going back further in time, at some point this was my default. And at an earlier point than that, my default was even lower. But now, if I switch into that state of consciousness for even a couple seconds, it's almost nauseating. It's so much more painful because I came out of it and I've gotten used to a better place. And so when you fall back into that darkness, having tasted something better, boy, is it dark. And it's almost like in that moment I was meant to experience it for a second, which I sometimes do just to remind me what it used to feel like to be me, just at a default state. The horrible brain chemistry, the horrible nervous system damage, the shadowy, nasty entities just playing into it every way they could from every angle. People being triggered and, bringing out some of the worst traits in people because, again, when you're carrying a certain expectation of negative beliefs about life, you'll be able to pull that kind of behavior out of other people to confirm it. Now, I'm not saying that if you're all light and love and good and all whatever, everybody else is automatically going to be great to you. I'm not saying that at all. Look at Yeshua, highest vibration of excellence of God energy any human has ever walked this planet with, and he got the worst kind of treatment. So I'm not telling you that the world just does whatever you want if you get yourself reprogrammed. But I will tell you this, a lot of things will change and you yourself won't be the cause of so many so-called failures or setbacks or miseries. Of course, this takes, people that are sincere enough to not be like arrogant and ridiculous and admit that they're the cause of their own problems. A lot of people won't even take step one and even admit that they ever do anything wrong. So I can't help. This isn't going to help somebody like that. But if you're struggling and you're wondering how to change, this discussion is useful. Some distinctions about the conscious mind, the sub-superconscious, true spiritual principles replacing dysfunctional belief systems that still reside within you. They don't go away, guys. Even if you keep your gaze forward and you're always living in your conscious mind, plotting and scheming and trying to be the best, whatever, or whatever it is you're trying to do, there's this massive dragnet of other things going on behind you, a lot of it in conflict with what you're trying to do or be or deciding to do or be. And I just wanted you to understand it's not some curse. It's not God working against you. It's not even some devil working against you, although they'll get in on the action, of course. But there's this massive, powerful thing, generally referred to as the sub or superconscious mind. And it's just layers and aspects of yourself with no real discernment, but tons of power and energy. And they are magnetic and they are affecting reality. See, the spiritual realm is the causal realm. This physical realm is an effect realm. So it's no wonder that when people do what they call, say, medicine mainstream, they do everything backwards. They try to treat effects and never look at the cause. Then again, there's infinite money in that. And there's no money in actually healing people. But I don't want to get off on that tangent. But every institution kind of does things upside down and backwards for that very reason. But you can flip the script. You can go to the deep inside. You can sit in a higher point than your mind and know you're not your mind and monitor your thoughts and watch how they work and decide what you agree with. Yes, I choose to be this. I choose to do this. This is the vision I see for myself. And in the future, if I succeed with this vision or I move towards it, I may have a grander vision, and then I'll be being and doing that. But in the meantime, it's going to bring up the blockages, the stumbling blocks you still have. And if you maneuver these things gracefully without trying to blame yourself or someone else or be mad at God that such things exist or anything else, if you get to a point where you can be at peace with it, you can just start replacing things that are entirely dysfunctional and accepting that, it may take a little practice, but I'm going to monitor my mind and I'm going to decide what I dismiss and I'm going to decide what I entertain. So you start changing this all in the now, but you're actually kind of going backwards in time in a sense, because when you successfully reprogram a root belief within yourself, everything in your life changes. So you're reprogramming your own past and present and future, of course, at the same time. And from a higher space, there's actually a dimension where there is no time, but as pertains to the human experience, I suppose it's relevant to talk about it in those terms. So I hope you guys find that useful. Those are some key things. But I found it really interesting how yesterday I'd hit dark mode for a matter of seconds and I had to pull myself back into light. I was like, whoa, I couldn't live this way. I couldn't help you guys. I couldn't face reality. I'd be too afraid of what's going to happen to everybody I love. I would be crushed all the time. And I used to let my mind just ravage me for decades when I didn't know better. I wasn't taught anything about how to tend to one's own garden, so to speak. And in learning more about it, I mean, the whole body changes. The whole body changes. If you change your root beliefs for something true and spiritually healthy, the mind becomes healthier over time. The body becomes healthier over time. The outlook you have on life becomes much higher, and therefore you're able to be of more use to others because you're not so overwhelmed and crushed with stress and fear and regret and all these other things that could have held you down. The list of things that could hold me down and stop me from being any use to anybody, guys, it's so long I don't even want to look at that list, and I don't bother because I disagree with most of that list at this point. But it's really profound and amazing because 20 years ago or so, you know, I was more frustrated and confused than most of you, the vast majority. So I just want to testify to you that this is real. You do have the power to change your own consciousness. Thoughts are creative. You are creative. You are a creative thought from the ultimate creator, given creativity to creatively think with. That's true. I love you. Over and out for now.